Hello everyone, Britt here from Scrappy Boy Stamps, and today we're going to be doing a tutorial featuring the pop-up cart die set. First, we'll cut the 3 largest dies in this set. There's a right-facing and a left-facing base piece. We will cut each one of these one time. These pieces are the front and back of our cart. The third large piece provides the awning for our cart while embossing score lines and details. We'll cut this piece twice. Now on to all of our smaller pieces. First, there is a right-facing and a left-facing handle. For this example, we'll cut each of these pieces one time. Next, you'll have 2 small stitched label pieces. These look a little like postage stamps, and you'll cut each one of them one time. Those layer on the top of these 2 outer hinge pieces. Each of these will be cut one time in cardstock matching your base pieces. Your cart also has 2 pieces that make up the wheels. There is a base piece with spokes and a round frame piece to represent the tire. You'll cut each of these pieces twice. There's a medium-sized stitched label that decorates the top of our roof piece. This will be cut one time. Next, we have our long hinged piece that acts as a center support for our cart. This piece will be cut once. The largest stitched label piece, which decorates the side of our cart, will be cut twice. These 2 long strips are the upper and lower decorative railings for the sides of our cart, and I made a mistake here. You actually need to cut these pieces twice. Lastly, there are a few pieces we're not going to use in the example today. A 2-piece matted label and 2 sweethearts in graduated sizes. Now that all of our pieces are cut, let's assemble. Unfortunately, I lost a little footage while doing the first half of my magnetic closure, but I'll explain what I did as we go along. First, I die cut an extra section of the roof's awning. We'll use this piece to help us conceal our magnets. But before we adhere anything, I'm going to make sure that this piece doesn't keep my roof from folding flat. By auditioning the piece in this way, I'm able to see that it's going to be a little too tight if I leave it as is. So to make sure everything will work properly, I'm going to take my scissors and trim off a very small amount from the flat side of this piece. Now let's pause here so I can tell you what the camera missed. Using one of my base dies, I die cut an extra layer for the top section. I adhered 3 low-profile button magnets to that section of the base. Then I concealed them by adhering that extra purple layer over the top. Now we'll use that bottom layer of magnets to line up our top layer. First, we'll line up the awning piece that we just trimmed so that the outer curves line up perfectly. Make sure the 2 pieces of cardstock are right sides together and secure them with low-tack tape. We do this to ensure that our magnets are placed exactly where they need to be to make our pop-up work. I got my magnets from Amazon, and I believe I searched 1mm thin button magnets. I recommend a double-sided adhesive tape for this because liquid glue has too much slip and it might misalign your magnets. Add the adhesive tape to the back of your magnet, then lower its sticky side down, and when you feel it start to pull towards the magnet underneath, let it go and it should snap into place. Once these last 3 magnets are adhered, you should be able to remove the low-tack tape, and these 2 pieces should be magnetized together. Now that our last 3 magnets are in the proper place, we'll use more double-sided adhesive tape and we'll adhere our awning layer to the bottom of our roof piece, concealing the magnets between and hiding them from view. Make sure you press the pieces together to have a strong hold over those magnets. Then you get to do the fun part and test out your magnetic mechanism. For 3D projects and box cards, I recommend doing as much embellishing as possible while your larger pieces can still lay completely flat. Using liquid glue, we'll adhere each of these largest stitched labels to embellish the side of our cart. It's important to start with the large labels to get the look I have achieved here. Placing the stitched label first allows the handle to be layered over the top so that the entire piece is visible. Next, I'll adhere the 2 decorative rails, one above and one below our stitched label. I only cut 2 of these rails to begin with because I originally planned to only finish the front side of the cart, but ultimately I decided it ended up looking a little odd without the finishing touches on the back, so I quickly cut 2 more and adhered them where they fit perfectly on the back piece as well. The 2 smaller stitched labels are the layering pieces that embellish these 2 side hinges made to connect the front and the back base pieces in order for us to create our pop-up. There's absolutely nothing tricky about placing these pieces, but they are not a perfect square. So the shorter ends should be the top and bottom, and the longer ends should be the left and right. The die we use for these hinge pieces will die cut the piece and score the fold lines, creating the tab pieces that will help us assemble our cart. It's a good idea to use a bone folder to reinforce these score lines. You'll want all the folds to be very crisp so that things will fold flat when you want them to be flat, and will be able to pop up easily when you want it to pop up. To begin assembling your cart, apply liquid glue to one tab of your hinge piece, then adhere that tab to one of the base pieces, making sure the piece is centered between the two rails. Set that aside to dry and repeat these steps with the other hinge piece and the other base piece. The only tricky part is you'll need to make sure you attach one hinge on the side with the handle and one hinge on the side without. Now I wanted you to know that this next part is definitely not required. Essentially, I cut some additional layering pieces utilizing my 2 base dies in order to reinforce some of the thinner areas in the design. While I was assembling this card, I realized that I had not used a heavy enough weight of cardstock for my bigger pieces. But instead of cutting this out of the video or redoing these pieces altogether, I thought I would show you that this was actually a really easy fix that didn't take me long at all and didn't require me to start over. With those thinner sections of the base reinforced, the next piece we'll deal with is this rectangular piece with tabs on the end, designed to add support to the interior of the cart, as well as providing more area for us to embellish when we get to the finishing touches at the end. I wanted the spacing of this support piece to be even, so using my small T-square, I put a little mark in the dead center and adhered my support piece with liquid glue, lining it up to that center mark. This is the point in which it's really important for you to start manipulating and trying out the mechanics of the design as you go. It will just really help you see if you need to make small adjustments so that the mechanics of the card end up working in the end. To bring the 2 large pieces of your cart together, you'll add liquid glue to the remaining tab on the base piece without the center support and adhere it to the base piece with the center support. Then, to close up our pop-up, we'll add liquid glue to the remaining 2 tabs and fold the one half of the cart over onto those 2 tabs, making sure that you fold at the score line closest to that center support piece. This should have created the pop-up mechanism at the bottom of your box. Now, if you remember back to the beginning of the video, we initially cut this roof piece twice. Now this step is strictly optional, but I thought it was a really fun idea to use the purple as a trim around the edge of the roof. When you die cut this piece, you get some fun embossed detail, and I cut right across one of those embossed lines to create my trim. I also cut along the 2 center score lines, and I'm going to use that center section to finish off the interior of the roof. Again, it's good to fold and manipulate some of these pieces as much as possible, especially when adding an extra piece on the inside of a fold. It allows you to adjust everything before you adhere it so that your finished project still works as intended. When we turn the roof piece back over, the medium-sized stitched label layers directly on top of the roof, and I love how those little extra trim layers that we made tie everything together perfectly. With all the major pieces added, we're finally ready to put a roof on our cart. Now this is important. You're going to adhere the side of the roof that does not contain magnet. It is designed to fit perfectly with just a little bit of overhang to the top of the base piece that also does not contain magnet. And the reason you want to avoid gluing the magnetic sides is because you don't need to. The 2 magnetic sides will snap together like magic and then unsnap just as easily so the whole card can lay perfectly flat. The last thing we need to do to complete the assembly of our cart is, of course, add our wheels. This detail is super easy to assemble. The tire just gets layered on top of the spokes, and I highly recommend getting just some regular standard size brads to complete this project. You can see here that while I only had gold brads, I actually needed silver, and so I took some luster wax and just turned them into silver brads. Then I threaded the brad through the hole in my wheel and also through the hole in the bottom of my cart, opening and flattening the arms of the brad, which securely attaches them to my cart. And the best part about attaching them this way is obviously that the wheels still spin. And with our wheels attached and functional, our little pop-up cart is done. This cart makes an amazing card because it does fold completely flat in order to be put in an envelope so you can send it through the mail. But would one of our projects really be complete without a set of adorable images? If you love this cart, you are going to love the series of Build a Gnome Home stamp sets. This Halloween one is, of course, my favorite. Not only does this set come with 5 little gnomes all dressed up for Halloween, the best part for lovers of this cart is that this set comes with a bunch of fun little Halloween decorations, and they fit this cart like they were made for it. And there are some really fun seasonal options that could help you stretch this idea from now until the end of the year. Even better, I have an inside track on a date you're going to want to put on your calendar. November 22nd through the 28th, 2024, Scrappy Boy Stamps will be having a Better Than Black Friday sale. The majority of stamps, die cuts, papers, and stencils in the shop will be 35% off, and the confetti shaker plates are going to be $9.99 each. There are a few categories excluded, and I've put all the information in the description box below, but if these little gnomes have captured your heart, they will definitely be on the sale. You'll also be able to grab the pop-up cart die, as well as the fall and Christmas gnomes, which I think would be so cute with the fairy house door, or maybe even the vintage trailer. I'll be sure to link all the different categories below, and after this video, you should go and make your wish list. And now back to our regularly scheduled card program. You've been watching me attach a lot of our elements to the front panel of the cart, but one of the awesome things about this kind of pop-up design is the ability to create depth and dimension by attaching some of our elements to the center support and the back panel. And with these perfect tiny little embellishments from the stamp set, there are lots of little places to add details 360 around this design. When I was decorating this, I sort of had a little story in my head that these three little gnomies in their Halloween costumes had come upon a random cart. And because gnomes will make homes wherever they can, they decided to move into the cart with all of their cute little Halloween decorations. Now, I know that might seem a little silly to some, but to me, art is about telling a story. Of course, I love playing with all of the stuff in my stash, but arts and crafts should be fun. And sometimes for me, telling the story is the funnest part. After adding all of my spooky cute gnomes and its happy Halloween sentiment, our Halloween gnome home pop-up cart is complete. And you know I was always going to make a second sample, so I pulled out my candy house die set and made a pop-up cart full of Christmas candy. And even though I didn't have any Christmas-themed Scrappy Boy paper, I actually found a couple of patterns that worked really well in the I Love Pirates 6x6 paper pad. And lastly, I wanted to show you that I was able to add magnets after I had already completed this card. I use little circles of cardstock to conceal them, and the mechanism works exactly the same way. This version of the cart is really great if you love die cutting, but maybe are not so much into stamping and coloring. If you made it this far, thank you so much for joining me. We love you in this little crafty community, and we could not do this without you. Speaking of community, we would love for you to come and join us on the Facebook group and the Scrappy Boy Instagram. There you will find other Scrappy Boy fans, new releases, shipping updates, sale notifications, and a bunch of inspiration from our amazing design team. If you are interested in any of the stamps or die sets that you saw in this video today, visit scrappyboy.com to see these and some of our more recent releases, links to all of our socials, the website, and give us a thumbs up, comment your favorite kind of candy below, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss further uploads. And as always, if you remember nothing else, remember this. As the old saying goes, a home is not a home without a gnome. See you next time, gnomies. Bye.